The price of freedom of speech is not cheap, is it?
I think it's like 44 billion, something like that.
Just
Round numbers.
give or take $1 billion.
Yeah, round numbers. Yeah. It's pretty nutty. There is like this weird movement to quell free speech kind of around the world, and this is something we should be very concerned about. You have to ask, like, why was the First Amendment like a high priority? It was like number one. It's because people came from countries where if you spoke freely, you would be imprisoned or killed. And they were like, well, we'd like to not have that here, because that was terrible.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a lot of places in the world right now, if you're critical of the government, you get imprisoned or killed.
Right.
But we do have an opportunity to do kind of a once-in-a-lifetime deregulation and reduction in the size of government. Because the other thing, besides the regulations, America is also going bankrupt extremely quickly. And everyone seems to be sort of whistling past the graveyard on this one. But
they're all grabbing the silverware. Everyone's stuffing their pockets in the silverware before the Titanic sinks. It's like,
well, the Defense Department budget is a very big budget. Okay, it's $1 trillion a year. DoD, Intel, it's $1 trillion. And interest payments on the national debt just exceeded the Defense Department budget. They're over $1 trillion a year, just in interest, and rising. We're adding $1 trillion to our debt, which our kids and grandkids are going to have to pay somehow. Every 3 months, and then soon it's going to be every 2 months, and then every month. And then the only thing we'll be able to pay is interest.
Yeah.
And if this is, it's just it's just like a person at scale that has racked up too much credit card debt, this does not have a good ending. And so we have to reduce the spending.
let me ask one question, because I've brought this up a lot, and the counter argument I hear, which I disagree with, but the counter argument I hear from a lot of politicians is if we reduce spending, because right now if you add up federal, state, and local government spending, it's between 40 and 50% of GDP. So nearly half of our economy is supported by government spending, and nearly half of people in the United States are dependent directly or indirectly on government checks, and either through contractors that the government pays, or they're employed by a government entity. So if you go in and you take too hard an axe too fast, you will have significant contraction, job loss, and recession. What's the balancing act, Elon? Just thinking realistically, because I'm 100% on board with you. The next set of steps, however, assume Trump wins and you become the chief DOGE of DOGE.
Right now, the administrative state, a fourth branch of government that's not supposed to exist, of unelected bureaucrats, is writing all the laws, encumbering millions of people with regulations, and there's no counterplay. Your counterplay is to sue them in court and get them declared arbitrary and capricious. So, how many times recently has the SEC been declared arbitrary and capricious? Numerous times. Numerous. So in the Ripple case, the judge basically said that the SEC lawyers were not performing with a faithful allegiance to the law and was changing their story based on, getting whatever they wanted. The SEC just recently, their lawyers were lying in a case, and the judge caught them in the lies and said, well, now that you've been caught in these lies, explain to me why I shouldn't sanction you and fine you directly. Fine the SEC lawyer that was lying to the court. And then you see all of his bosses at the SEC jump in there like, we're sorry, Your Honor. Please don't fine us, bro. Don't sanction us, bro. We're going to retrain everybody. And so I will let you guys know where to find these specific documents. This is only a couple days old. the SEC. So then you see this guy's bosses at the SEC throwing him under the bus and throwing junior guys under the bus, if I remember correctly, and then talking about how they're going to retrain all their litigators and how they're getting rid of that guy and they're putting in new guys. And you're like, hey, you know what? You wouldn't have all these problems if you just didn't lie to the judge. So you don't need to train your guys on how to not lie to the judge. And this isn't the only thing, right? The SEC has lost 4 of their last 5 cases in front of the Supreme Court. Gary Gensler likes to go on television speaking outside of his capacity of the SEC. So he'll go in interviews with people and say that he's not speaking on behalf of the SEC. Well, buddy, that means you're speaking on behalf of yourself, which means it's actionable. Okay, you are speaking on behalf of yourself, and you are moving markets, and you are manipulating markets. You, Gary Gensler, are manipulating markets outside of your authority at the SEC, which means you are personally responsible. You hear me hedging the heck out of my language because I don't want to catch a case. Not financial advice, do your own research, no forward-looking statements. But you, buddy, you're on record teaching at MIT saying that 75% of tokens are not securities, and then you get a job, you got your round trip, you got your revolving door, you got your 16 years at Goldman Sachs, but now you get to regulate Goldman Sachs. That's a good round trip you got there, buddy. You get to defend all your friends that you make all your money with. Hey, where's all your money, Gary? It's with all your friends that you're helping out by screwing the competitors, right? So in Gary's world, and by the way, so I would love to see Gary Gensler catch a charge for his manipulating markets with his speech outside of his capacity at the SEC. I would love to see him catch a charge for violating his oath. I'd love to see people suing him directly because people don't understand. When the SEC attempts to call something a security, it's like calling hugging, punching, and arresting parents for beating up their kids. It is disgusting. It is a violation of due process. It is a violation of equal protection. People that speak to each other using the blockchain deserve the same rights as people that speak to each other using pens and paper, non-digitally, analog. They should have the same protection of people that use the mail. They should have the same protection of people that use the telephone. So there's so many things going wrong right now.